Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm so sorry it's been so long since I updated y'all. I was playing football with my friends and I got injured during a match, so I had to end up getting surgery for my knee, which now is still not up to 100% yet, but it's definitely gotten much better from since it first got injured. So I'm really excited to be back making videos, and yeah, so let's get right into it. I recently finished Crown and Scepter by Tracy Borman. I really enjoyed her writing and the way she fitted everybody's stories into one concise package. I particularly enjoyed her chapter on Queen Victoria, as well as, of course, Henry VIII, Richard III, and a lot more of Elizabeth II, a lot more recent monarchs as well. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars because it's not because it was really anything groundbreaking, but the way the author wrote everybody's lives into such a concise manner really impressed me, and I really learned so much about how each monarch reigned, what their characters were like, and how they perished, and how they came to power, and background information like that. So I gave this a 5 stars, and I really enjoyed this book. And I'm also excited to check out more of her books. If I'm not wrong, I think she did a biography on Henry VIII and some other English monarchs as well. But yes, I really enjoyed this. Next book I recently finished was My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. I actually had this as a library book, but I unfortunately lost it somewhere, and I probably have to pay a fee, so I'm pretty sad about that. But for the book itself, I really enjoyed it. It's about female friendship, so a friendship between two girls from young in an Italian setting. So they grow up together, and certain things happen to them. There's a bit of a not a clash of personalities, but an admiration for each other, mainly written from the perspective of one of the girls and how she goes to admire the other, her friend. And this is the first book in the series, and it kind of left off at an awkward phase, but I feel like the second and third will really pick up, and I've seen that online as well. What I'm currently reading right now is also Rubicon, The Last Years of the Roman Empire by Tom Holland, and that is the writer, not the actor, even though it's pretty funny that they share the same name. But this book is so engaging. I love the way Tom Holland writes. I love the way he takes the time to flesh out characters. Sulla, especially for where I am so far, Sulla and Crassus, and of course Caesar, and Pompey, and Cicero. But the way he fleshes out their personalities, and can really feel the gravitas and charm through his books. And the way he writes is just so, it's just I don't know, just very well intentioned, and you can really tell that he really put a lot of thought and effort into deciding what kind of sentences he wants to write, and what kind of feelings he wants to evoke in the reader. Well, that being said, I know among some historians on Reddit, at least, they say that some of his conclusions that he points out aren't really historically accurate, or he kind of jumps to conclusions on some things. With that, I'm okay with, because I don't know, as long as he writes it in a way which is not totally false, or just straight out gives me false information or lies about something, I'm okay with it. But if he manages to convince me that, because of this historical evidence, this happened from his point of view. He doesn't explicitly say that, but I think it's quite well known that if you write a history book, especially if you don't reference a lot, you are kind of subjected to a lot of criticism if you don't source your if you don't reference your sources at all. But from what I know, he does reference a lot. He does reference some sources, and he just makes some conclusions upon those sources. And he also makes it a point to let the reader know that there's not much evidence about this. But this is what I said from what I read so far. But yeah, I really enjoyed his writing. I'm still enjoying his writing, and he has 2 other books in this series about the the fall of the Roman Empire, which I'm currently very interested in. So I read a lot of Reddit subreddits telling new readers to read Mary Beard's SQPR instead. But I thought that since I already had this on my cover, I'll just give it a go. And to my surprise, I really, really enjoyed it. I really am enjoying it so much. And don't be fooled by what those historians say that saying it's not worth the read, even because it's not very historically accurate or stuff like that. I think it's very beginner friendly, and more so it pulls you in, and it develops your interest in human history rather than bore you with the most historically accurate facts or conclusions. I think that's the strength of Tom Holland, and I know that of course he's not historically accurate, but his role as a storyteller in conveying these stories to the masses is a achievement to be proud of. That made me a bit excited to get to the second book. Okay, so some of the books that I got from a free library. I have Toni Morrison's Love, which is talked about as one of her masterpieces alongside Beloved and My Bluest Eyes, if I'm not wrong. That's what the title is called. So yeah, I've heard a lot about Toni Morrison, of course, very large literary figure. So I'm gonna check her out soon. Writing soon. Okay, next I have The Red Tent by Anita Diamant. I didn't know much about this book initially. I gave a bit of research, and apparently it's about one of Jacob, the biblical Jacob's daughters, who in the Bible isn't given much of a voice. So this is a feminist book about her story, and told in her voice. Her name is Dinah, and I don't know much about biblical stories. I mean, I know like the basics of who Jacob is and who his children were, particularly about is it Joseph, and how he was sold by his siblings. I think that is a story, if I'm not wrong. But I thought it was an interesting take from like how one of his sisters viewed the whole thing, and yeah, I think it's gonna be a very interesting read to find out what happens in her perspective and her context, and her whole personality is not really defined in the Bible. So I'm interested in how the author will bring about many of her traits and who she is. Yep. So I'm gonna get to this soon. Next, I have The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot. I like her surname Skloot. But yeah, very, very good reviews on Storygraph, and also it has a blurb from Hilary Mantel, who I'm meaning to get to as well. And yeah, it just had really good reviews. It's about a poor and black tobacco farmer named Henrietta Lacks, and she her cancer cells become a multi-million-dollar industry and one of the most important tools in medicine. So an extremely fascinating premise. So I just learned about that, so yeah, that's pretty funny and interesting. So I think it's gonna be more of a comedic book. So that's what I got as well. So next, this is up in my TBR, which is Turncoat by Jane Butcher. From what I've read online, it says that this is when the series picks up to another level. So very, very excited to get to this. We have another Shakespeare play, Richard III. As I mentioned before, I'm really interested in his story. So one day I want to read a biography of him, but I know how his life was like and what he did. And from what I know, he basically usurped the Edward IV, and it's a pretty sad story. So I have no idea what Shakespeare writes about him or what he thinks about Richard III, but I know Richard III as a figure of betrayal and nervousness and a lot of anxiety, seen from his portrait, his famous portrait of him fiddling with his ring during his portrait. So I'm quite I want to see how Shakespeare writes his story, and see whether there was a lot of scenes on his betrayal and his usurpation. of him usurping the previous king or child as a king. So yes. Okay, next I have Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. If I'm not wrong, this won the Pulitzer Prize, or a very well-known prize. I'm not sure, but I know that it got a little bit of a controversy as well, because it's obviously a Japanese book about a Japanese figure written by a Western man. So there's a lot of questions about who is allowed to write whose story, and I think there's a very complex discussion to have, whether somebody who is a totally different gender writing about the opposite gender, or someone who is a totally different race. So let's say I'm Chinese and I write about somebody who is black, who obviously I don't have any first-hand experience writing, or much less writing about their lives. So it's a very interesting and like I say, very complex discussion about who is allowed to write whose problems, stories and backgrounds, and much less like profit off of it or write a whole book on it. Yeah, it's a very deep problem. I think it's a problem. Not really a problem, but I think it's a deep discussion to be had about that. Personally, I feel that it's okay as long as the author really recognizes that is not a first-hand account, and he credits people where credit is due. I think if he or she handles it smoothly and with enough social awareness, it could go well. Obviously a bit of backlash, but I think that's natural for somebody like writing about another culture, another race, or another gender, or another religion. So yeah, very a book with a lot of outside discussion, but as itself as a piece of media, I think it'll be a great read. Okay, next I have one of my favorite authors, John Irving, The Silent House Rules. I've read A Prayer for Owen Meany and what other one called? The World According to God, and I really enjoyed them both. Thought they were really funny, and I really enjoyed Owen Meany as a character, as well as Garp from The World According to God, and his mum as well. I forgot the mum's name. So I saw good reviews on this, and I just picked it up. And there was another book from him in this stack that I picked up from the free library, but that didn't really have good reviews, so I just left it behind. From what I can tell, John Irving is a very hit or miss style, so you either really enjoy it or you won't at all. And that comes to his books as well. If you really enjoy his books in the first place, you may not enjoy some of his books based on how they're written, but you will enjoy. You are set to enjoy some of his books if you read them. So on one side you can enjoy them as a reader, but what am I saying? Like, you can read something that is universally praised and you would like it, but there's also books of his that is universally disliked. Is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, but I'm happy to have this in my collection. Okay, next is David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, and I've seen so many people talking about how boring Charles Dickens is, and how much of a slog it is to get through. And so I always vowed that I would never pick up a Charles Dickens book, but I saw this in pretty much perfect condition with a wrap around it, and I just couldn't not get it. And it's a Penguin classic as well. So who knows? Maybe I can prove all the haters wrong, and think that it is an interesting and well-paced book. But from what I've heard, even though he, of course, is a very prolific writer in his own right, a lot of modern day readers especially will complain that it is extremely dry and slow moving. But let's see, maybe if I give it a try, it will just click for me. But nonetheless, I'll keep this for the reputation of this book and this author. Next, I have Franz Kafka, Metamorphosis and Other Stories. Of course, I've heard about Franz Kafka and his sci-fi can you call it sci-fi? Yeah, sci-fi stories as well as his diaries, and there's a bit bit of a mystic surrounding him. So I started to get to his work. Okay, now I have a bit of a pop history, a short history of nearly everything. So I'm quite curious to see how the author Bill Bryson will handle um, explaining how many things came about, and of course it's not going to be about everything. But I'm quite curious to see how he manages to wrap a lot of things at one go, and I saw a good review, so I just picked it up. It's a nice holdable copy as well. Okay, next I have The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. This is the first book in the I think it's called the Millennium series. Yeah, the Millennium series. And if I'm not wrong, he only wrote 4 or 5 of them before passing away, and he passed it on to another author, which isn't as good. So I'll stick to his part of the series only, and I'll see from there whether I want to continue on with the whole Millennium series. I've read this before, but I read it when I was pretty young. I know it's quite graphic and sexual and deals with a lot of adult themes, and I'm not too sure why I read this when I was maybe 12 or 13, but I did. So, and I remember it being very engaging and yeah, just very dark, and so I want to reread it and see what I think about it now. But yeah, this is the first book in the Millennium series. Okay, next I have a library book. I'm currently reading this as well, All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I've read one of his other books. It's called The Calculant, and I enjoyed that. But this is more well known because it is the winner of a Pulitzer Prize. I saw some criticism on his book saying that when you're reading it, it feels like it's a very deep book and you will think about it a lot. But when you're not reading it, you just instantly forget what it is. So it has a lot of depth when you're reading it, but somehow it doesn't stick in your mind. And I get the impression as well. Even though I really enjoy reading this book from the perspective of a Nazi youth, as well as a blind French girl living during the invasion of France in the 1940s. But somehow when I start reading it, I don't really think about it, or it doesn't linger in my mind much. But nonetheless, I get why this won the Pulitzer Prize, because it is extremely well written, and it has that sort of depth and mystic around it that you start to feel. It's a little bit of a what is the genre called? It's like very subtle fantasy elements to it, very very subtle. There's an item in this book which is said to bring bad luck to the the person who holds it. So I'm interested to how it ends. I can definitely see how it won the Pulitzer Prize, because it has a very interesting way of segmenting the chapters of going back and forth in time, similar to how he did it in Calculant, from different characters from different time periods. And it's a very distinct style of writing, which I appreciate a lot, because not many authors will take the risk to try something new. But yeah, I like this book, and even though I won't give it a 5 stars, definitely I still want to finish it and hopefully enjoy it and like it. Okay, next, I recently went book shopping with my girlfriend, and recently, as in maybe a month ago, and I didn't get the chance to make a video about it, but I got War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, which I'm extremely excited to get to. I think you can tell how excited I am for it based on how many times I said extremely, but I'm really so excited to get to it in the next coming year. Also, it's a huge chunker, but people say it's the best novel of all time, or some people say anyway. So I got this, and I got Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy as well. So 2 of his best known works finally in my collection. So super ready to get to it. Okay, next I have a somewhat controversial figure in the literary world. Actually, he's not somewhat, but he's extremely controversial. Neil Gaiman, who, if you don't know, he's accused of allegedly of sexually assaulting the babysitter him and his wife hired. Um, so not a good human being at all. But I believe in separating the art from the artist, and I believe that this book, American Gods, does not have any problematic scenes or themes in it. Um, I subscribe to the belief that you can separate the art from the artist, but if the art itself has things that propagate the very evil and shitty ideals, shitty ideologies, then it is okay to not read it, and it's more than okay to throw it away or sell it or recycle it or something like that. But if um, the art itself does not contain any problematic things, I think it's more than okay to keep a problematic writer's books. This is universal, in my opinion, to music as well. So an artist may create something that is so beautiful. Example being Kanye West. A lot of people enjoy some of his albums, but in real life, we know that he is an extremely problematic person who is bigoted and anti-Semitic. But I believe that you still can enjoy his music without supporting him, while admonishing him as a person. Yeah, so that's my take on separating the art from the artist. But as a book itself, it is more than okay to enjoy it. You just don't praise the author so much for how good of a person he is for writing such a book. That's my opinion anyway, and feel free to disagree with it. That's just what I feel that the whole separating the art from the artist boils down to, whether you want to praise a problematic artist's work or not. And I choose to do so without praising the person himself or putting him on a pedestal because he wrote such a good work. Yeah, but enough of the ramble. This book is about a man called Shadow who was in prison and he gets released. I know it has to do with some is it Greek gods, or am I just totally off the mark here? But yeah, I saw it and I took it. Next, I have a book called Horn of Africa by Philip Caputo. I'm not too sure. Excuse me. I'm not too sure what this book is about, but I saw very good reviews, and I think it's a literary thriller, and this author is known for that. So I picked it up. Okay, next I have a book called Human Compatible AI and the Problem of Control by Stuart Russell. I got this at the free library, which is surprising because it looks like it's brand new from the bookshop. But I got this because I'm hoping to I'm hoping to get into AI, and starting to deal with a lot of things related to AI when it comes to work. And I'm starting university in a couple of weeks, so I want to do something that's related to AI. And this is going to be a good supplementary material for me to research and to understand what are the problems of AI and the control aspect, the ethical aspects of AI. Personally, I believe that AI is a way more useful tool than what people believe. There's endless possibilities of AI, and I know a lot of you know that as well. But of course, there's always a obligation for it to be controlled so that it doesn't get out of hand. But I believe that there's really endless possibilities to AI, and that's why I want to work with AI, something surrounding its sphere at least in the future. And yeah, I saw good reviews on this book, and Stuart Russell, I think, is an expert on AI as well. But I'll save my ramble on AI for a later date. Just know that I'm not a huge supporter, because I know the drawbacks of uncontrolled AI use as well. But I'm a huge supporter of AI when it is done in a medium where it is controlled, and of course in a non-dangerous way, a way that brings much more benefits um, than it does hurt people or surroundings or anything like that. But yeah, so this is what I got from a free library as well. Okay, I also borrowed a book called The Bright Sword by Lev Grossman. I saw this recommended by Steve Donahue, and if I'm not wrong, it's an Arthurian fantasy book based on the myth, or the is it the myth or the legend of King Arthur. I researched a little bit about King Arthur and who he was, and some other characters, and how how they affected each other's journeys in the legend. So I'm pretty familiar with that. I'm a little bit familiar, I should say. But this, from what I've read, takes a little bit of a turn in the traditional retelling of it. So, and while introducing some fantasy elements to it as well. Okay, next I have Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. This author is extremely decisive in who it attracts and who it repels. I know certain YouTubers or certain booktubers who really don't like him, and I know some who praise his books to the moon. But for me, I think I kind of take a middle road in saying that I enjoy a lot of his books, but some of his books I understand that they're stinkers and they're just weird for the sake of being weird. And I think there's a fine line between being weird for the sake of being weird and being weird to emphasize a point or emphasize a theme that you're trying to bring to the story. But I believe that this book is one of his better books, so I picked it up as well. Next, I have Animal Farm by George Orwell, which alongside 1984 is one of his most well-known works. As you know, I've talked about 1984 before. It's extremely well written, and I really enjoyed it. I listened to it as an audiobook, which was highly dramatized, voice acted, with music and sound effects, as well as atmospheric music playing in the background. I listened to it as an audiobook, and I really enjoyed it so much. It's the most immersed I've ever been in a book before, partly because of all the sound effects and the additional things that was added into the audiobook, but the writing itself was truly so engrossing, and it pulled me in so fast. So with Animal Farm, I know what are the basic themes around it: classism, elitism, who the characters are supposed to represent, the pigs and the horses, and the other animal, who the other animals represent. But I've never actually read it before, so I'm excited to see how George Orwell writes about classism and elitism, and see how it holds up in today's society. Yep. Okay, next, I have The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. This is one of her books that she is very famous for as well. The other being The Secret History, which I have read before. I really enjoyed her characters and how they don't really you don't really expect they always subvert your expectations, or how you think they would act. And I enjoyed it about her writing, is that she always subverts your expectations and adds in new things when you don't really feel like there's going to be a right place to do it, but she does. And this is one of her most well-known books as well, and she is quite infamously known to publish a book in between the very large intervals. So I believe this is her second most recent book, if I'm not wrong. I think I may be wrong about that, but I'm excited to get to this. Next, I have The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This is one of those books where I've always heard about this classic, and I've heard about how instrumental it is in a lot of writers' writing, but I've never ever read it, or nor do I know anything about it. So instead of researching about anything about this book, I'm just gonna go into it blind. And I like the cover as well. It seems like a man is trying to seduce another woman, or is it a man just talking to his wife? I don't know. But yeah, I also have another copy here, which I got. So I have 2 copies of it, but I prefer this one. Okay, last but not least, I have Zadie Smith's On Beauty. Zadie Smith is a contemporary writer. I believe she has written quite a lot of very well-known books, and this is one of them. Similar to The Great Gatsby, I'm not too sure what this is about as well, but I want to go in blind and see what I feel about it. And yep, that is the end of the whole book haul / a reading update on everything. Really hope you guys didn't forget me while I was gone, and I hope you enjoyed it, and really interested into picking your minds about all these books that I just showed you. Thank you for being here and watching, and I hope that I'll see you soon rather than later. But yeah, thank you, BookTube. I'll see you again soon.